Okay.
Right. Welcome to everyone to this session. We're here and we're going to be talking about the Centers of Excellence, and we've got a distinguished panel here. I'm going to turn it over to Carlene Walker, who is a member of the board of Tall Ships America, and she is going to make some introductions and enjoy the session.
Thank you very much, Chris, and thank you to all of you who are participating today in Tall Ships America's conference. My name is Carlene Walker, and I wear many hats in the maritime industry, in which it has been my honor to serve for over 30 years. Some call me ubiquitous, but I am co-founder and executive director of the North American Marine Environment Protection Association, NAMEPA, which is an industry-led organization committed to save our seas and educate the public about the value proposition of the maritime industry. We also run MPSEC, which is the Maritime Primary and Secondary Education Coalition. And this event started out as an event we were going to run, and then we were invited by Tall Ships America to join their conference today, and we're delighted to be a part of it. I am also the Chief Evolution Officer for Shipping Insight, which is the fleet optimization and innovation platform for shipping. Another initiative is founder of the Consortium for International Maritime Heritage, which brings the public's fascination with the past to modern day shipping, and also the Global Maritime Information Coalition. And finally, I am an IMO Goodwill Maritime Ambassador. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from a variety of speakers, all who have a distinct relationship with the work that you do and the work that we can do together. Our first speaker is going to be Gerard Wall, and learning more about his work at the U.S. Maritime Administration and their Centers of Excellence program. We want to encourage all of you to explore this program as a pathway to learning more about the opportunities which exist in the maritime industry. Gerard will be followed by tall ship captains who will share their experience and passion for education through shipboard experiences. But starting out with Gerard, and I thanked him earlier for wearing a tie. Thank you, Gerard. Gerard is the Centers of Excellence for Domestic Maritime Workforce Training and Education Program Manager at the U.S. Maritime Administration's Office of Maritime Labor and Training. He has helped conceptualize and scaffold thoughtful and effective projects, programs, and partnerships with and between educational institutions, government agencies, private organizations, and community groups for over 25 years. Before joining MARAD, and I found this particularly fascinating, Gerard was part of the foundational team of a DC-based ed tech startup and had served in several leadership and change capacities in schools in New York and Connecticut. So Gerard, tell us a little bit more about the MARAD Centers of Excellence and how the group today can possibly participate in them.
Thank you, Carlene, and thank you. I appreciate the chance to talk about COE today. We'll shorten it you gave the big long title. Our shortened title for today, the acronym is COE. We go just by Centers of Excellence. That way I don't have to stumble over my own tongue. Let me share my screen with y'all. Sure. Okay. All right. Advance the screen. There we go. All right. MARAD is responsible for ensuring mariners receive the training and education necessary to secure and strengthen the quality of U.S. maritime operations at sea and ashore. And as the importance of the shoreside maritime industry and inland coastal mariners continues to grow, so does MARAD's mission in supporting this sector. We are conscious of the need to strengthen and grow the maritime worker pipeline. Between COVID, attrition due to aging, and increasing industry demands, makes it vital that we increase the supply of a well-trained maritime workforce. Integral to that effort are maritime education institutions. We recognize the important role of COEs, which are local leaders in workforce and economic development, and also primary, secondary schools and programs, which are inspiring and helping to train the next generation of maritime workforce. Advance. Oh, nope, that went way too far. 2. Oh, okay. All right. So the CWE program was developed to recognize and support community or technical colleges and maritime training centers that prepare Americans for careers in the maritime industry. Just a little background, it was part of the National Defense Authorization Act in 2018. It took us a couple of years to get the policy together. In October of 2020, we made the first announcement inviting applicants to submit. It's a voluntary program. There are some conditions. You have to be in the state on one of the following bodies of water, and you are either a community or technical college, a maritime training center, or we had a couple instances where a group of community and technical colleges and maritime training centers got together and applied as a consortium. There are, of course, being a government program, there are criteria and standards that need to be met, including offering a float and a short career preparation tracks. There are obviously accreditation requirements, licensing, and being a demonstration that there's some sort of state supervision going on here, and that you also are able to demonstrate program effectiveness through data. The application period is 60 days, and we are hopeful that we will be announcing the next round of applications in March, probably mid to late March. We're pushing to get it out in March. Out of the group last year, we designated 27 institutions, 16 states, and Guam. Of that number, there were 18. There are 18 community colleges, 1 technical college, 2 groups of community or technical colleges, the consortiums I mentioned, and 6 maritime training centers. We created a map of this is an interactive map, includes all the COE designations from last year. You can search by state, or you can also filter by type. So if you want to just look and see what community colleges got in, or what are the maritime training centers that got in, I invite you to look at them. And if you are a K through 12 organization, in particular, look for COEs who are nearby that you might be able to possibly partner with. MARAD anticipates that the COEs will continue their good work and foster the following activities. They will continue to support the workforce needs of the maritime industry, help develop some tailored solutions, build STEM competencies, expand opportunities and promote diversity, strengthen the industry and the pipeline of maritime workers through outreach and partnership with industry and with other maritime organizations and programs. Outreach and partnerships are critical for growing and strengthening the maritime industry. Indeed, many COEs already recognize this and have been reaching down into high schools and are providing access to maritime training and certification for juniors and seniors. In return, MARAD may be able to offer the following supports of help. We can offer it by providing resources, access, connections, expert speakers, and funding. We were not appropriated funding this year. We are optimistic moving forward that we will. I will say that external advocacy is critical in securing congressional appropriations. Currently, we're working with designees to better understand their needs, ideas, and aspirations, and find out ways that we might be able to help improve their program capabilities and effectiveness. Center of Excellence designation recognizes the high standard of maritime education and training provided by these institutions and is the first step in strengthening a nationwide partnership of academic centers focused on advancing the goals and efforts of the maritime industry. We are encouraging COEs to collaborate with each other and exchange ideas, share their best practices and lessons learned, continue to foster innovation, and continue to foster industry awareness. Partnerships strengthen not only an individual institution, but the entire maritime industry. We see an opportunity here to raise all ships. We do share the same goals, if differing waters. The expanding our attention beyond higher education. Over the last year, MARAD has been developing a K through 12 maritime education outreach program. I'll get rid of this top thing at the top. Oh, sorry. over the last year, we've been doing this K through 12 program. We've identified that there's a shortage of qualified maritime workers, and that there's also a growing need due to new sort of industries. For example, the offshore wind industry. We anticipate that they're going to need 22,000 workers by 2030. We already have a shortage of merchant marines. So we do need to fill up the pipeline. We do believe we can address this shortage and address industry demand by raising awareness about the maritime industry, by energizing the next generation of mariners, by facilitating partnerships and increasing training and certification opportunities. We strongly believe that we can build and strengthen this pipeline. And as part of that effort, we have launched an updated K through 12 webpage. On this page is a list of K through 12 maritime education programs and resource links for visitors to explore and learn about these programs and career pathways and opportunities in the maritime industry. We've also included a listing of other maritime training opportunities for high schoolers, apprenticeship programs, dual certification programs. Sort of coincidentally, each of those listed at the bottom involves a partnership with a current COE designee. And this is a growing and evolving list. So we invite you to reach out and contact me if you'd like us to consider adding your school to the list. These were the ones that we were able to confirm. And it offers some description about the program and a link to each of the schools. To complement that page, we also created an interactive K through 12 page. We believe that these are a sort of way to be a little bit more engaging. The K through 12 programs are mapped and can be searched by state or education level. They also include a link to the school's page, maritime program page, if they have it, and a description of the program. Last week, I alerted the COEs that these pages were going live and invited them to review the page. I invite you to review these pages and again, to review the COE page. It's our hope that we'll be able to develop some additional partnerships out of this. And finally, we are working both internally and externally to not only raise awareness about the COE program, but to also raise the visibility and viability of K through 12 maritime programs. Again, K through 12 maritime schools play a vital role in our nation's maritime industry. Your efforts at the K through 12 level are critical for inspiring and guiding the next generation of mariners. K through 12 and higher ed maritime programs are the crucibles in which innovative ideas are born, tested, and taught. And they are the backbone supporting and growing a stronger and safer maritime industry. MARAD is committed to supporting programs to improve the educational training, to improve the education, training, recruitment, health and welfare, and safety of U.S. citizen seafarers. We will continue to work of facilitating connections and fostering opportunities for both individuals and institutions. Webinars like this are a valuable opportunity to build community, and I do appreciate the chance to speak with you all today. And just to throw it out there, MARAD will be at the Sea, Air, and Space Expo conference in April. You can look forward to seeing us at STEM Sunday. With that, I will pass the baton to Sarah for some perspective from the COE side.
Carlene, I think you're on mute.
Okay. I'm wondering if you shouldn't rename the program COE, SEAOE. That might be a great connection. I also wanted to ask you, you've worked outside of the maritime industry and you've worked in education. What have you seen are some really interesting strategic ways to reach students about workforce development in an industry?
Well, I mean, really, there's nothing beats a great tour nothing beats an opportunity. There are a lot of, part of our direction is there's a lot of underserved and sort of underrepresented communities that haven't really been hearing anything about, I guess, the maritime industry. And we've actually been reaching out recently to some schools to try and facilitate some tours of the Ready Reserve ships that are like available in Baltimore. Nothing beats that. Nothing beats an in-person visit either. I've been getting messages back from CUEs. They're very regretful about this. It's been a hard year with COVID to reach out to schools, and they're just not having career fairs. They're not having, opportunities for visits. And so I just think nothing actually beats a live person standing there and saying, hey, you know what? I've been where you are. This opened up a whole new world and an opportunity to me, and come with me and let me show you what that's all about. So hopefully when this is all over, or when we're moving into fresher times, we'll be able to actually get more active engagement. So that's why I say we're going to last year's Sea, Air, and Space. There were about 400 students showed up for the day, and we're going to try and make some engaging activity to keep them all coming back to our station. So stay tuned for that. Don't know what that's going to be yet. All right, thanks.
Well, thanks so much, Gerard. And next up is Sarah. Yes, sorry.
Ready.
Okay, Captain Sarah Hirsch is the director of Waterfront Campus at Orange Coast College, overseeing the organization and integration of academic and recreational boating, seamanship education, fleet development, and fundraising to educate commercial mariners and boaters alike. Orange Coast College is a 2021 Center of Excellence, or COE, for domestic maritime workforce training and education, recognizing it as a community college and training institution which prepares students for careers in our nation's maritime industry. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Sarah grew up in a sailing family, spending her youth on Lake Huron and Lake Michigan. So, Sarah, how many Mackinac races did you race?
The question is probably how many did I see happen?
Oh, okay.
I never got to race in one, but I saw them out the window.
Well, I'll share my experiences with you sometime because I'm from Michigan too. At any rate, Sarah worked her way up from deckhand to mate to captain while sailing on tall ships, and she holds a U.S. Coast Guard 1,600-ton Ocean Mariner's Master's License with STCW. So Sarah, tell us all about your program and share your passion.
Thank you very much. I'm going to start by trying to share my screen. And if someone can just let me know if we look good, I'll get started.
Looking good, Sarah.
Looking good.
Okay, thank you. All right, so thank you so much for the introduction, Carlene, and it's so great to be able to talk about our designation here. And as was shared, I work for Orange Coast College as the director of our Waterfront campus, and we were designated a center of excellence. Coming from having had my hat on as a tall ship crew member and operator, I really am going to try to do what I can to share with you how, as a vessel operator or organization, you may be able to link up with a center of excellence. Just kind of give you a little bit of, shed some light on how we've positioned ourselves as a center of excellence and how partnerships could happen. Of course, I do, the caveat being we're in California. Most community colleges are all state directed, and I am sure each state's different, so I can answer questions about California that may not be applicable in other states. But that's something to think about, is that your state-run school has jurisdictional guidance coming down from the state level, and that's something to be mindful of. We have been operating entirely through COVID because we're a workforce training program and considered critical infrastructure. So we really have had students on campus continuously, although in some reduced capacities. unfortunately, I can't. There we go. Okay. All right. So our campus it's a physical offsite campus from the main college campus, which operates all sorts of community college programs from nursing to English majors. Our programs at our facilities, besides having an associate's degree and a certificate in our professional mariner program, we have a huge community sailing program called the School of Sailing and Seamanship, and that's just fee-based. Anyone in Orange County or beyond can come take sailing and boating classes with us. We offer continuing education classes that includes radar, ECDIS, basic safety training, other STCW classes that can help a mariner enhance their merchant mariner credential. And then our facility is also the home for intercollegiate rowing, and we are the only community college that competes currently with four-year colleges. So that's kind of a neat little tidbit. But I'm going to focus on the professional mariner program because that's truly what makes us a center of excellence. We provide the opportunity for students to come in to take a class or two for credit, or to stay long enough to either earn a one-year certificate or a two-year associate's degree. They take classes that are accredited by the state of California in coastal navigation, maritime environment, basic safety training, where they earn their STCW certificate, vessel and engine maintenance, where they're out on our waterfront with our fleet of boats, digging through whatever's going on the maintenance team. They can have the option to take radar observer. RFP&W is a brand new class for us in our new full mission bridge simulator. So students actually achieve those assessments on the full mission bridge in our building. We will be offering 100-ton masters for credit classes as soon as we can find an instructor. So come on down, folks. We have intro and intermediate sailing, and I think it's really interesting to share that our advisory committee, which is a state requirement for a career technical education class to have industry advisory, they said they want our graduates to have taken a sailing class, which I think, coming from my background, is really exciting. And so that is probably not a requirement at a lot of the other centers of excellence, but that's something we support here. So our students will come out if they've spent a year or two with us with their basic training certificate. One of our boat handling classes awards them 60 days of sea service as a Coast Guard course certificate. And they have the opportunity to apply for their merchant mariner credential. Our students come from all backgrounds, and we don't require them to earn a merchant mariner credential. They can go and find great workplace at places without an MMC. So that would typically be an ashore career that Gerard was talking about. And in one of our limiting factors is the merchant mariner credential does require our students to pass a drug test. So that's not a requirement of the program. And then, as you can see, we've got students that go all over the place. Many of them are working regionally here in Newport Beach, California, and Long Beach, LA. We have really robust area, plenty of work for folks to do. Our campus, what we're offering to our community is we actually have a brand new building that was constructed across the street from our sea base that has a full mission bridge simulator by Wärtsilä, 10 station radar and ECDIS lab. We have 5 waterfront classrooms. All 5 are approved by the Coast Guard for classes, 2 conference rooms. Our rowing facility, which includes locker rooms, which is really handy for some of our on the water training. We partner with an offsite marine fire training location, and then we have over 40 instructional vessels, many of them that are on site all the time, and then a rotation of donated boats that come through and make things interesting for our students. If you run a program and you're thinking, wow, how can I augment what I do? Maybe we need a classroom to teach something. Maybe we need a different vessel or a different instructor. Think about your local community college and if they are a center of excellence, do they have these types of resources that you could collaborate on? And so then thinking about, well, this is very new to us, the Center of Excellence. So we really have to take a forward direction and begin some collaboration, with the responsibility we have as a Center of Excellence. So in my brainstorming, I'm thinking, what can I provide to a K through 12 or vessel operator? Well, certainly I would love to provide field trips to our facility, and standing in the full mission bridge simulator it's pretty awe-inspiring. It's definitely second to visiting and getting on board a ship on the water, but it's a close second. It's pretty exciting, and we hope to host young groups to come learn about careers that way. we have the opportunity, especially because of our various funding sources, that we could offer reduced cost professional development for vessel crew. So that might be basic training or a 100-ton class. And then, of course, we're a shoreside meeting location. Depending on your community college, they may offer a nonprofit rate. We also have the opportunity to fully sponsor outside partnerships that that are able to have a meaningful relationship with us that benefits our students. So for instance, we host the NOAA observers training in our waterfront. They get in the water with their life raft every year, and we can fully sponsor that because our students get to see professional training happening right on site. So that's one example of a fully sponsored partnership with a community college. All that requires paperwork. So I know there was a great session yesterday that mentioned, all right, partnerships, do we have MOUs? When you get involved with a community college, because of insurance and liability, you are going to probably need something on paper. That way, if your program gets hurt at my college, we have something on paper to direct how we deal with it. So the paper exists, but you need to find the right person at the college to guide you through it. What could a member vessel provide me? Well, all my students need ship time. Right now, we actually get on charter fishing boats. The faculty arranged that. We're already kind of treading water to figure out how our program will change, and because of the changing requirements for our local charter fishing vessel fleet and how they've been affected by the conception. So we're already looking for alternative opportunities. I'd really be curious, though, as you're listening to what I'm saying as a Center of Excellence, how would you partner? How would you, if you were right next door, what might you think about approaching us for? And feel free to throw something in the chat if you have a great idea. I'm going to save all those because we have some work to do here. And then collaborative opportunities. Certainly the idea of creating a community engagement program that both showcase the Center of Excellence, because enrollment is huge. We are truly paid at the community college by student enrollment. So the state funds us by the number of people who are enrolled at our school. I don't know how that works for other states, but I'm always working on enrollment. And I imagine as a vessel operator, that's your primary objective too, is you're looking for people to come on your ship. How can we collaborate on that? And then a little bit more higher level, a lot more paperwork involved is opportunity for dual enrollment. So one way that we can increase the enrollment numbers at the college is if we partner with a high school level program that's offering an academic program similar to our curriculum, and that student can actually earn high school and college credit at the same time. So that's a dual enrollment program that's a little bit beyond, but there may be some operators out there who actually could consider that. And then finally, I just wanted to kind of share some tips. If you wanted to go down the street and find your Center of Excellence, and you maybe hadn't really spent any time with that community college before and wanted to get your foot in the door, first of all, listen to the language they use. We have for-credit classes, non-credit classes, not-for-credit classes. All of those are very different and have different funding models. So ask, what does it mean? How does it affect what we're trying to do together? Career technical education is well funded and is an area you should be keying into. And then I just spoke about dual enrollment. Huge one, consider the academic calendar. My faculty get paid when they teach. If they are off the academic calendar because it's summer or a holiday, they're probably not checking their email. So try to think about an academic semester when you're trying to reach people. You'll have more success getting them, and don't send them a message when you think it might be final exams. Faculty are often adjunct faculty, which means that they're barely paid to teach their class. So they're in the same boat as you are. They're not flush with time. And then finally, funding. Funding sometimes is on an annual cycle, or maybe even further than that, takes more than an annual cycle. Say I want to charter a day trip on one of your vessels. It might take me a year to tell you I have funding, but I might have to spend it within the next 3 months. And I'm stuck with that, and I can only come and take my students on your vessel if you can work with me in my funding cycle. So finally, find your champion. Find someone at the Center of Excellence who believes in what you do and believes in your program goals. Because here at the community college, everything we do is done out of love, just like my experience on tall ships. You're not going to find someone who has extra time to put this type of partnership together. And so stick with them, help them, give them examples, and stay connected. I think there's a lot of potential here. And I look forward to seeing where we go at Orange Coast College, and perhaps I'll talk to some of you about that too. Definitely reach out if you have ideas. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. You really sort of shocked me a bit when you mentioned that a lot of some of your students, and I'd just be curious to know what percentage, some of your students aren't going to pass the drug test. I mean, in the commercial maritime industry, of course, that's a requirement, as you had indicated with the merchant mariner credential. But is this really a barrier to students' progress? And is there any education done around the importance of don't do drugs?
Sure, Carlene, I'm in California where it's not actually illegal for some of the drugs that the students may be using. So when they come in, the first day of class, the instructors let them know, if you want to earn your MMC, this is what it looks like. And students kind of pick their career trajectory from there. But it does mean that we won't have all of our students holding credentials. I think that might be different in different states. And I certainly think it's a side conversation about how we, consider supporting youth who have a state regulation that's different from a federal regulation.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much. And that was excellent. And we'll trade notes about sailing in Lake Huron and Lake Michigan another time. Our next speaker is whoever turns on his camera next, because we've changed up the order a bit. And it looks like, it's Aaron. This is Aaron and I go way back, and we won't say how far back, Aaron. But one of the thrills when NMEPA runs an annual event in New York City, at least we did until we had to go virtual. And one of the highlights of it was to see Aaron show up with some of his students from the New York Harbor School. He's the water director there, but he's so much more. And I know that the beginning of his presentation will give you a pictorial account of his sailing background for the past 25 years on the variety of ships, on the people that he's encountered, including our next speaker, through sailing in South Street Seaport Museum and other places where he met schooners and learned about them. And he's commanded every vessel that's operated out of South Street Seaport. And if you haven't been to the seaport, it's just an extraordinary resource for New York and the sailing community. But he also when he joined the teaching staff at New York Harbor School and Governor's Island, he created a 3-year New York State certified maritime career and technical education program for vessel operations, which is an incredible asset. And I'd love to learn more about it, Aaron. So please take it away.
Great, thanks, Carlene. Not every vessel, the Peking, the Wavertree, Ambrose, I didn't do those. But I was fortunate. I'm actually right now in my classroom. And so I probably have the coolest classroom ever. So Sarah was talking a little bit about Bridge Simulator. So we've got a full Mission Bridge Simulator. I could pan over here and you can take a look at the classroom. The window out there, if you could see it, is the Brooklyn Bridge and South Street Seaport. So I have probably one of the coolest classrooms ever. And it's actually strategic to the partnerships that we'll talk a little bit about this Maritime High School has with industry folks. But I'm gonna enlist the help of my good friend, Jonathan Kabak. He's gonna screen share for me and just tell you a little bit about myself. So if you go ahead and do the slideshow there, if you notice on the upper left, I grew up in New York City and I actually found my way to the water, not through a maritime high school, not because my parents sailed, it's through a Sea Scout program. And if you take a little upper left there and that little rosy cheeks there, you'll see a good friend that's here, Captain Jonathan Kabak, and I did a Sea Scout program when we were 12 and 13. And just like many folks that kind of done those maritime training programs, we quickly fell in love with it. And if you ever went through Hell Gate, you see there's a little rock there called Mill Rock. Our Sea Scout unit was located right over there. And I wasn't quite in the program, but they used to row out in a rowboat to Mill Rock and camp out there, and quite an experience. But within my program, I was able to actually get connected with South Street Seaport Museum, which I've met many folks on this participant list. I was able to intern and volunteer with Schooner Pioneer and Letty Howard. And I was fortunate actually to become master of Letty Howard when I was 21. And at that time, we started a school, and that was 2002. We started a school called the New York Harbor School. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. My goal is to kind of give tools to the member vessels here. We have folks that are in maritime programs, administrators, to think a little bit about collaborations. Think about how a school program could be tailored and connections where tall ship staff and Marine staff can actually infuse themselves in a training program. That's what we've done here with the Harbor School. That lower right there is a picture, actually, I think it's 2014. And, you know, we brought up students to the Tall Ship Conference for many years, and those folks have well graduated. In that group of kids that are standing next to me to the left are young adults. And, you know, we have a licensed chief engineer that works for Kirby. We have a lady who's a fisherwoman who in Alaska. We have a launch operator. We have another licensed engineer, and we have a tugboat mate. So you can take a look at, you know, some of the outcomes, and we'll talk a little bit about how we can get there. But I wanted to show you that because that was my Facebook memory for today. In 2014, we were presenting for the Tall Ship Conference. All right, next slide. And this is my beautiful family. Anne is my wife. She's the director for the Billion Oyster Project, which is one of these major collaborations we're going to talk about, which makes us prepare young people to go into the industry. So it introduces this, you know, idea that there is water around us. And this huge program is something that folks, I think a lot of us can all agree, you have a program that can connect young people to the water. And so Billion Oyster Project is one of our major feeders within the many others. And those are our wonderful kids, Theodore and Benji. Next slide. So the Harbor School, if you don't know, we're located in Governor's Island. We started over in the next slide, you'll see 2003, and the director of the program, his name is Murray Fisher. And the goal of the program was to introduce maritime careers or just the water to a group of people that wouldn't necessarily know about it. And that's New York City youth. And just like many of the folks that are on this, you know, call here, we could all agree there's a little bit of a disconnect in urban areas with getting anybody to the water, and especially young people. Next slide. So a couple of founding partners, South Street Seaport Museum was that major partner, and I was actually the captain of the Letty when we started the school. So my role then was to provide that floating classroom, to provide that platform, and actually think a little bit about how we can get urban youth to get connected with this industry of tall ships, but also just get connected with the water. And so we learned a lot of lessons when I worked at South Street, and then we started shifting that, becoming a New York City Department of Ed teacher. Next slide. So the Billion Oyster Project I mentioned is a big partnership with us. So we found that traditional maritime high school wasn't the role that we wanted to go into. We wanted to be more of a project-based program. We wanted kids to think. We wanted kids to get their hands on the water and experience it for themselves. It's really hard to do that with just site visits and tours. So we teamed up with Billion Oyster Project to actually have the kids involved with restoration. And the goal is to plant 1 billion oysters in New York Harbor by 2035. And the organization started with our aquaculture program as a high school program, and it's morphed into a staff of 30 full-time folks. And they fund all of our vessels. They fund our partnerships with sail training organizations, with work-based learning experiences. And it allows us to actually get our kids to be on the water and actually make a meaningful impact in a project. And so those skills that we're looking for, boat handling, seamanship, safety training, the character development that we all love and see in tall ships, we apply that as much as we can with other aspects of vessel operations. Next slide. So we do have a bunch of programs. So I teach a program that has around 45 kids total. They see me for 3 years, fully immersed. And by the end of that program, we have somebody that is capable and they have the experience. And we actually do give the licensing to make them employable when they graduate. So a career tech ed school has to be employable when you graduate with industry credential and also college ready. And so we do that within the 8 programs that we have, and they range from professional diving to marine biology research, marine systems tech. We just added marine policy. So next slide. So those are the lists of our programs here. And so within a school of 525, we're going to be doubling in size in the next 3 years. And we're actually adding a harbor middle school. Because one of the factors we found is that it was really hard to get kids to know about the water and understand about it at 9th grade. So reaching out to those younger grades made sense. So we're going to be starting, the DOE just approved the creation of a harbor middle school in Red Hook, Brooklyn, an underserved area. Next slide. So we have many partnerships, and that's what we know as working with a not-for-profit makes sense. And these partnerships help us kind of pull in those connections for our students. Next slide. So I do want to talk a little bit about this Center of Excellence because that's the focus here. And I'm really psyched that MARAD started recognizing that we need to get a K-12 program and actually to designate maritime colleges, associate programs for this. And so we have a great connections with Kingsborough Community College, which is our local community college. And we place plenty of students there. We, probably around 15 to 20 students go into that program and are successful. But one of the things I want MARAD, I want everybody here to think a little bit about is that the skills that we're looking for in the industry, the experiences that tall ships and member vessels offer, the things that we experience dealing with South Street Seaport, Mystic Whaler, Ocean Classrooms when they were running, all of these programs are valuable experiences and are highly sought after skills that you will get afterwards. And so I want us to think a little bit about hopefully creating a program of excellence within the member vessels that we have here. All of us are providing that. And I know that if I say that if a student intern, let's say at South Street Seaport aboard a schooner for 3 months, they're going to be able to actually gain X amount of skills. And South Street should be recognized as a program for that. And I think that's something to think a little bit about in reaching younger audiences, a little bit more meaningful than the intro to work-based learning, which are like site visits and guest speakers. Next slide. So the big need right now, and it was mentioned before by Gerard, is the need to supply a workforce for the ever-changing market, and wind industry is a big one here. Next slide. And so our goal as a harbor school is to help MARAD, help all of us try to get a reflection of our participants in our crews. And if you take a look at the demographics here in New York City, you can see that it is not even. And it's been like that, we know, in the tall ship industry, but it's definitely like that in the commercial industry. So if you look at these numbers, 93% are white, less than 3% are female. And I think that's one benefit of our programs is that we can start reaching out and start having students gain those experiences. And the partnerships that schools are able to have with non-for-profit vessels are going to be key to that. And this is the marching orders from us. If you take a look at this slide here, next slide. And this is what it's about. It's about taking a look at graduates, whether they go in the industry right away after graduating high school, or they do it after college and they go back into it. We've seen a lot of success in our graduates, and what I would like to do is it shouldn't be designated just for New York City. We know every urban area can benefit for valuable programs like this, and there are high school teachers here, there are administrators here, and there are amazing maritime programs that are out there. And thinking about connecting this concept idea of Center of Excellence or Center of Excellence programs makes sense. So anyway, thank you so much for the time.
Well, Aaron, thank you so much for sharing your passion. And I have one quick question for you, which is, of all the years that you've been involved in bringing students on board ships of all sizes, what is your favorite aha moment when suddenly the light bulb went on and that connection that student had was created with being on the water?
I mean, the biggest thing is I don't want them to deal with me only. I'm a teacher that they see for 3 years. I'm not a tall ship captain anymore, you know? And so when I bring a group of students to a partner site and they're able to engage and make that connection and, you know, and be able to display the 3 years of experience, it's you know, it's astounding. Like just before this conference, I was just over at Sector New York, and the captain of the port engaged with 6 Harvard School female students. And, you know, it was amazing. You know, it was like, you know, I just needed to leave the room. It didn't matter who I was. So I just love the connections our students are able to make, and it's a real connection.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for sharing your passion. Well, our last presenter is Captain Jonathan Kabak, and we heard a little bit about your background earlier when Aaron did his introduction, because like me, you go way back too. But Jonathan is currently the Chief Executive Officer of the Oliver Hazard Perry in Rhode Island, which is he's an internationally recognized expert on maritime training and education under sail. Originally from New York, as we heard, his career began in the Sea Scouts, like Aaron's, and also migrated to South Street Seaport in New York. Over the course of his career, he's sailed in command of vessels ranging from landmark tall ships to high-performance racing sailboats. So you and I need to talk about that as well, Jonathan. His Maritime Training Academy vessels to luxury motor yachts. I wish I could. But since 2019, Jonathan's been the CEO of Oliver Hazard Perry in Rhode Island, the organization which owns and operates the state's flagship, which is the Oliver Hazard Perry. So thank you very much, Jonathan. And we're looking forward to hearing your comments about, you know, the whole organization, as well as the contributions to maritime education.
Sure. Well, thank you, Carlene, and what a treat to be here. You know, Carlene was giving us some gentle ribbing about not wearing ties. I apologize. I think I've changed outfits 3 times today. I had the pleasure of teaching the marine engineering course for a group of high school students from Providence aboard the ship this morning, then meeting with a donor, then being dad and picking up my kids from school, and now here we are. So I promise it won't be death by PowerPoint, but I did sort of want to share a few slides with everybody to make sure, let's make sure we can see them here. And all right, and if somebody could give me the thumbs up that it's working, that would be great. Otherwise, I'm just gonna go for it. So the Oliver Hazard Perry, 200 feet of really brand new state-of-the-art square rig ship, 471 gross tons, tall, deep, of moderate speed. And all of these are wonderful things, but I think the most important lessons or points I could share with everybody is that unless that's something that's important to you, it's hard to make a connection within the broader maritime community, in particular with centers of excellence or K through 12 educators and similar. So I had the good fortune of speaking at a session yesterday where we talked about partnerships and collaborations, and we really focused on value proposition. So I sort of want to talk a little bit about how to ensure that there's a value proposition that you're bringing to the table to engage with centers of excellence. And as a bit of background, we supported the Community College of Rhode Island's application to be a center of excellence. And we like to say we bring some of the maritime to their maritime training programs. Their center of excellence application and their background in the maritime really focused on training for shoreside shipbuilding careers, particular to submarine building with electric boat. And their focus on the operational and underway components was really not as prominent. Through a collaboration in programming, particular to workforce development and short duration programming, together we now offer a program that serves Rhode Islanders that are unemployed or underemployed. As part of the program, they receive STCW basic training, OSHA 10 maritime, and placement in industry all throughout the state. So as I shared with everybody, you know, sometimes it's tough for us as tall ship operators to recognize what we bring to the table, because we think we're bringing the character development, the seamanship training. And sometimes it's maybe a little bit different. And what those partners are looking for is something that you can offer, but is not what you're used to sort of putting front and center. So sometimes it could be a place to gather together. Sometimes it's a place for their students to put hands on equipment. A lot of what I'm speaking about now really comes from a conversation that Captain Hirsch and I had, or Sarah, because we go back a number of years, about sort of what is that value proposition for each of us if we were going to try to do business together. And for us as vessel operators, it really is about giving those experiences. But, you know, for many tall ship operators, the first thing you might be offering to somebody, you might not think it would be the engine room, but in the commercial maritime world, that's exactly what the training is that's needed. So recognizing the broad spectrum of what you can offer, I think, is a really important part about entering into these opportunities. We are the connectors, we're the conveners. So this, again, some of our workforce training program students meeting Chris Braga, the general manager of Goodison Shipyards, one of the most prominent yards here on the East Coast, certainly in Rhode Island. That's a 1 million ton lift there. Excuse me, 1 million pound lift, 900 metric ton. The Perry weighs about 1 million pounds in the lift, they told me. And that's what they're all staring up at as Chris is sort of sharing what it's like to run a commercial shipyard. We need to be able to offer the skills. So how to be a marine electrician, to crimp wire, to strip wire, to know the difference between a single crimp and a double crimp. Things that, you know, you might not think about as part and parcel of sail training, but are absolutely part of what we do on a daily basis to run our vessels. And ultimately, I think if we can forge successful partnerships, there is a contribution to your bottom line. You know, I love this picture because of what it represents. It is us providing expertise, real meaningful hands-on experiences. And I am literally getting paid to teach somebody how to chip rust on my vessel, an important part to our ongoing maintenance program, so that you can really develop a true symbiotic relationship with engaging with these entities, be it at the community college level through the centers of excellence, and also extending down through K through 12 programming and ultimately bringing everybody together. So what does that mean? You know, we like to say everybody that comes through Oliver Hazard Perry is empowered by the sea through our programs. And for us, and I'll stop sharing, where we really see ourselves as vessel operators is in a unique position to help, one, convene conversations. It's funny, Aaron mentioned his Facebook memory. Well, all of mine today are flooded with a question I asked about academic research that talks about the disconnect between BIPOC communities and the waterfronts. And so here we are, we can sail our ship right up to India Point Park in Providence and engage people in a meaningful way. We say we're the Statue of Liberty of Rhode Island, where the commercial maritime sector, I think, is challenged in bridging that gap. So I think we can be the convener. We can provide expertise when it comes to curriculum development. We can provide platform of opportunity. And through all of those things together, I really see a wonderful opportunity for our communities, be it K through 12, the community colleges, support from MARAD at the federal level, and we as tall ship operators can come together to really create meaningful experiences for students. And ultimately, I think, you know, some of the projects that we're working on that are very exciting, we are taking STCW, internationally standardized curriculum, and backing that work and those requirements into Common Core standards in the curriculums that exist here in Rhode Island. We're launching credit recovery programs in partnerships with local high schools. We are running enrichment programs where students are getting school credit for learning maritime trade skills. And we're very excited about launching a credit recovery and ultimate program using Algebra 1, you know, that thing that is a frightening subject to so many people, but the maritime landscape is rich with real meaningful experiences that bring relevance to academic subjects. So there's so much opportunity out here in the maritime space, and I hope that we can all work together to build those bridges and collaborations, or as our great friend Nancy Richardson says, our cool-laborations. And with that, you know, I want to save some time for questions. I know we don't have a lot, but I think myself and my colleagues are happy to field a few. Over to you, Carlene.
Well, thanks so much, Jonathan. I really appreciated that. You reminded me of something that Congressman Elijah Cummings once said, and he said it at a maritime education conference that I ran at MyTags. He was talking about the future workforce, and he said, if they can't see it, they can't dream it. And it's through tall ships, it's through harbor schools, it's through all of these programs that we can show them that there is a maritime future, a career, a whole life ahead of them involved in maritime. And it's your experiences and your, the ships that you bring, the programs you run, and getting in and planting oysters that will give us the opportunity to encourage, to show them what the maritime industry is about, so they can dream it. So Gerard, I had a question. Having seen all these presentations, and we've had 3 unique opportunities to look at the various elements of maritime education in different ways, what is the best way for these communities to really coalesce around the centers of excellence and best partner with and become part of the Center of Excellence program?
Well, I guess I'd point you first to the map to try and figure out if there's one in your neighborhood. We're hoping that with the new application pool and with the fact that we have been sort of out messaging this year and raising awareness, that more schools will get involved. We are hopeful we'll get funding. So much of this always hinges on being able that the gift we can give back is through funding, through grants and whatever else. I'm excited too, listening to what's, what Jonathan and what's actually happening live. As a teacher, I miss curriculum development, but I also step back and say, we're like the Department of Transportation, not the Department of Education. So we're able to sort of bring people together. We're not able to necessarily define what it is you should be teaching to kids. We leave that up to people who are actually in the field, living this. Although I would love to bite on that apple, just because they, we have restrictions put upon us. I would just say, if you're a program out there, either reach out to us at MARAD and see if we can connect you with someone. It has to be about connections. I mean, the strength is in. I mean, I would love, and I hear it, and this came up before. I would love for us to develop a program that similar to COE that recognizes K through 12 programs. The Center of Excellence was developed externally to us. MARAD wasn't the one that developed it. It was community colleges that got together and said, hey, we need you guys to help recognize us. And so those actions, I guess I always have to remind myself, I don't work for the National Park Service anymore. I work for the MARAD, and Park Service was very about community building and on the ground. We have to take a different take here at MARAD. That being said, I'm in this role. So whatever I can do to sort of help facilitate contact between schools to each other, districts to tall ship programs, to whatever, we can do that, or I would be willing to explore that. So, I mean, at this stage, we have to recognize we are sort of a young program, still sort of finding our feet and what it means to do. Part of me going out and giving these webinars is as much to share information as it is to gather information, and to hear what people are saying and what people want. And so, and then, I can take that back and sort of digest it and see what's possible within our system. So all I would say is at this stage of the game is, if you're on this call or if you're out there, and you're curious about how maybe to move forward, reach out to me and I'll see if when we're talking, if there's a way we can find to reach out and connect, because we really have to. It really is about, like I said, in the PowerPoint, unfortunately, but we have to do that kind of thing. This is sort of the inaugural step in really building up a community of maritime institutions that are working and focused on training. And so I recognize, I know with Sarah is it really is hard to find somebody on your own staff to be able to be the person to network for you, but some element of something has to reach out. And if we get little pieces reaching out from different places and we can connect them together, your collective voices can actually have more power. So
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gerard. I'm getting the virtual hook. I'm so sorry that we don't have more time to spend, because each of you gave us such a different and unique, not only unique perspective, but such an engaging perspective on how we can link students, the public, with sailing and industry. So I'm really excited about all that you presented. Thank you so much. And I think the next part of today's program involves awards, and everybody loves a good award. So thank you very much to our speakers, and thank you to all of you out there who have participated today.